Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to just give people 30 more seconds to load in from the waiting room or join, and then we'll get started. Okay. We'll get started, and if others join, we can pick up summarize wherever we are. This is a workshop that is designed to focus in on how California's developed lands can be managed for climate benefits, and the input that we received today will inform California's updated natural and working lands climate smart strategy. My name is Amanda Hansen. I'm the Deputy Secretary for Climate Change at California's Natural Resources Agency, and I work with my colleague Clessy, who's also on the line, and a number of other partners across the administration to really elevate the role of nature-based solutions in California's climate agenda. So thank you all for being here. I am going to just start with a couple of housekeeping items. First, very obviously, we just ask that you stay muted when others are talking. Second, to flag that we are recording this webinar and that it will be posted on our website. And then third, if anyone would like access to closed captioning, you go up to the meeting controls at the top of your screen on the right-hand side, and you select More. And from there, you select Language and Speech, and then click on Turn on Live Captions. If anyone has trouble, just let us know in the chat. So, this workshop, as I mentioned, is focused on California's developed lands. I think if anyone is interested in kind of the big picture of what is this update to this strategy, I would encourage you to check out our kickoff webinar recording, also on our website, and we'll put a link to it in the chat, that really did a deep dive on our approach to the 2022 strategy, our thinking about how we might update and make changes to that approach for the 2025 strategy, and then also just kind of a deep dive on California's policy evolution in this space over the last few years, because there's been a lot of good stuff that's been underway. So if you're interested in that kind of table setting information, I would encourage you to check out that webinar. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a lawnmower outside my window, and I'm sorry if you can't hear me. I'll be very quick though. The goal for today is really to do a deep dive on how California's developed lands can help us deliver our climate goals, and how our climate goals can help us improve the health and resilience of our developed lands. My colleague Plessy is going to do a quick presentation to help get everyone up to speed on what did we say about this particular land type in the 2022 strategy, what are we thinking about adjustments for 2025, and some process ahead. But then we're going to quickly turn it over to you to get input on how you think we can make sure that this particular section of our strategy is really strong and robust and reflects the latest science and our understanding. So my last comment is just to share, we got a tremendous amount of input when we developed the 2022 strategy that really we felt strengthened it profoundly. And so really appreciated that and are hoping for sort of similar engagement as we update the strategy for 2025. So with that, I will hand it over to Plessy to get into our developed lands deep dive. Thank you all again for being here.
Can you see my slides? Yes. Okay, great. As Amanda mentioned, my name is Clessy Bennett. I'm a senior environmental scientist at the Resources Agency, and I'm going to start us off with some high-level remarks about our approach to updating the strategy. So if you are familiar with the 2022 strategy, you may remember the landscape section of that strategy. That was really the heart of the 2022 strategy. We plan to update those landscape sections, including integrating the newest science on the portions of those sections related to climate benefits that these lands can provide. We'll also be revisiting the priority nature-based climate solutions for each of the landscapes. Again, integrating the best available science as well as changes to management on the ground, and really what we hear from you all. And Amanda just put a link to the chat where you can find the 2022 priority nature-based solutions and cross-cutting priorities, which I'll also walk through in the next couple slides. In the update, we're also going to update our landscape maps. So in 2022, we included maps for each of the landscapes, and we'll be updating those with the latest and newest land cover data. We will also be taking the next step in our approach to tracking action and measuring outcomes in the natural and working land sector. We're also going to have a new section in the strategy, and this is on barriers to implementation and solutions to overcoming those barriers. And we've got a few questions prepared for you specifically on this topic. We'd really like robust public comment and input on this new section. And then lastly, we will include information on what has happened from the 2022 strategy to now, and update our near-term priorities from 2025 going forward. Next, I'm going to go through a couple of process items related to the update. As Amanda mentioned, we had a kickoff webinar on February 1st, and this has been followed by a series of landscape-focused workshops. Obviously, today we're talking about developed lands, and we'll continue these through the end of the month. This spring, we're also having early tribal consultations and hosting tribal roundtables. We plan to release a draft of the strategy in June, and this will be followed by a public comment period, an additional tribal consultation period, and tribal roundtables. And we will aim to publish the strategy in January of 2025. As mentioned, we are in the midst of hosting landscape-based workshops. We are nearly finished. We will be posting recordings of the workshops that happened earlier this month on our website, so look out for those in the next week or so. And we've got one more workshop after this one, and that's on croplands towards the end of the month. Now I am going to do a deep dive on developed lands and what was included in the 2022 strategy. So when we talk about developed lands, we're talking about all developed areas of California, whether that be urban or suburban or rural. It might be highly urbanized city centers, think Los Angeles, but might also include town squares and other infrastructure around the more rural areas of the state. This landscape includes green spaces and parks within developed areas of California, and covers about 6% of the state. You can see this is largely concentrated around our major cities and urban centers in California: Los Angeles, San Diego, San Jose, San Francisco, Sacramento. And the ownership breakdown is largely private, with nearly 90% of these lands belonging and owned by private entities. Climate-smart management of developed lands can provide a multitude of benefits to Californians, including extreme heat mitigation, carbon sequestration and storage, improved public health, groundwater infiltration, flood resilience, local job creation, habitat and biodiversity protection, and more. However, these benefits can be threatened by conversion of these lands and poor management. So you'll see some of our nature-based solutions on the next few slides, getting at trying to enhance and continue these benefits that these lands provide. So I'm not going to read each of these nature-based solutions that we identified in 2022 as priorities for developed lands, but I am just going to touch on the themes that were included. We've got integrating nature-based solution and nature into community infrastructure, protection against fragmentation and habitat loss in these developed areas, investing in nature-based solutions that benefit communities specifically facing pollution and extreme heat burdens, treating vegetation near roads and energy infrastructure while also protecting ecological health, integrating sustainable pest management, expanding and maintaining green spaces and urban tree canopy, using place-based species selection, the idea of the right tree for the right place, protecting trees from pests, diseases, and drought. And if these trees do die, then ensuring the highest and best use of that biomass. Greenways and green belts around communities, protecting and restoring urban riparian areas such as rivers and streams and floodplains, water reuse and water recycling, urban agriculture, scaling community land stewardship through neighborhood run and owned gardens or residential composting, youth-focused land management. Prioritizing nature-based solutions that protect vulnerable communities from climate impacts, building healthy soils in California's developed lands, and lastly, drought-tolerant yards and landscaping, such as removing and replacing lawns. Next, ensuring brownfield revitalization is done in a way that's climate smart, utilizing urban forests to create local high quality jobs, supporting community land stewards, and restoring and conserving lands that were developed for oil and gas or other industrial uses. We also identified a number of cross-cutting priorities in the 2022 strategy that really spanned across all of our landscape types. So again, I'm not going to read through these, but I will just touch on some of the themes and mention that this section was really enhanced and improved by public comment in the 2022 strategy. And through that process, we realized that there was a number of priorities that really spanned across all of these landscapes. So we tried to put them together into one section up front in that landscape section of the 2022 strategy. And these included equity and community engagement and implementation of nature-based solutions, ensuring landscape level approaches and adaptive management in the face of climate change, the importance of technical assistance and workforce development, leveraging and scaling resources through partnerships, advancing tribal management and co-management of lands, protecting lands that deliver multiple benefits, advancing durable conservation measures, combating invasive species, and lastly, capacity building of nurseries and seed banks to meet our restoration and reforestation goals. Here, we're going to turn it over to the discussion portion of our workshop. We have a few remarks on housekeeping regarding the discussion. So first, if you could use the raised hand function, we'll call on you. And if you can please introduce yourself before you give your comment, that would be great. You can also put input into the chat if you're unable to unmute. We'll get to likely all the comments, but if you think of something after, or if you have a colleague who is not able to attend, you can submit those in writing. Here are 4 questions that we have prepared for you. First, are there changes that you'd recommend to those existing priority nature-based climate solutions that we walked through and that Amanda put in the slide or in the chat specific to developed lands? Are there changes you'd recommend to those existing cross-cutting priorities that we just walked through and are also found in that document? Third and fourth questions are really meant to help with our new section of the strategy. So what are the biggest barriers to implementing these priority nature-based climate solutions on developed lands? And what solutions exist to overcome them? And how can we at the state government most usefully advance them? So I'll put myself on mute now and turn it over to you all.
Plessy, I just want to say one thing really quick to the group, which is, and some of you I think have joined and listened into others, so you won't be surprised to hear me say this. There's going to be silence in this hour, and we are okay with it. Obviously, we hope it is filled with input, but to the extent that there is silence, Plessy and I are going to be on the line for the full hour. So, if you think of something else that you want to weigh in on, like 55 minutes, well, I guess that's too long, but right before the hour is up, like it's not too late, and we're happy to hear your thoughts as they come. So, with that, I see that Chuck has put his camera on, so I'm wondering if he has something. Yes, great, Chuck. Kick us off.
Wow, that was very astute. Thanks, Amanda, and thanks for having this conversation today. I don't know if I really, if this falls into question one or question two. It's not so much about cross-cutting, but crosswalking. And my question is, there's some things that have come up in the couple years since this document was created that I think fit fairly well into the overall objectives and some of the priorities that were raised. And I'm thinking of, in particular, the Extreme Heat Action Plan, which I think speaks in really strong detail to nature-based solutions and climate-smart land strategies with urban green infrastructure. So I'm just wondering to what extent this document may crosswalk with other documents that have become available since this was originally created. Also statute. I know that there's an existing statute that was put on the book since this document came out that sets a target for an increase in tree canopy above 10% current levels, and also has other elements in there that I think complement or speak directly to some of the priorities. So the carbon plan that recommends again in developed lands 200% investment above baseline funding. So I'm just curious into what extent this document will crosswalk with some of the other good things that have come out in the past couple of years.
Great. I will just briefly say, our goal for this document is to update it to reflect exactly some of the things that you've just ticked through. A lot of progress has been made. I think one question that I would love your thoughts on, we have a section of the strategy where we summarize state action, and I think for the 2025 update, I think our goal is to really not bother doing that summary because it was done for the first one and it's not super critical moving forward, but we still will have an appendix that lists the full compilation of our efforts. So I guess what I'm wondering about is, we also need to make sure that this strategy is driving on the forthcoming nature-based solution climate targets that we're developing, which of course, build on and incorporate the tree canopy target that you mentioned. So, I think when we put the draft out, we would really love people's thoughts on did we do this well? Is there a different way we should have done this? But if you have thoughts now, we welcome them. I think it's a little bit hard probably to answer that question until you see what we're talking about and be like, yeah, that didn't work, or here's how it can be improved. But I definitely want to make sure that those kinds of really important, stepping stones and milestones that have been achieved are reflected in the next strategy. So I hope that answers the question, but I think you're going to probably have to see what we're talking about to give us true feedback on whether we did it well. That's my sense anyway.
Thanks, Amanda. I look forward to seeing it.
Francesca.
Hello, thank you. Just got to turn my camera on here. Just introduce myself. My name is Francesca Rohr. I am a research data specialist with Urban and Community Forestry program at CAL FIRE. And I am fairly new to the program, so I'm still learning here. So I have more questions than anything. And so my first question is that you're updating the 2022 document. Is there some idea of a time frame when you think about priorities going forwards? When would the next update be? Or is it just, what's on the table right now?
Not sure I understand the question. So if my answer is not sufficient, let me know. But we're planning on putting a draft for the 2025 update out in a few months, and then we're going to finalize it hopefully by the end of the year.
Right. Sorry, I wasn't clear. So I guess my question is when you're thinking about the priorities that you're identifying in the document, are these short, medium, and long-term goals, or are they like what is the thought process behind that? I'm just trying to get an idea of when I look at them, what is the time frame, or is there a time frame? Maybe there isn't.
Maybe we should follow up offline because we have a pretty robust internal to state agencies process that we'd like to work with you through to answer questions exactly like this. So maybe we can follow up with you offline about that.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Reminder that we've got one more workshop towards the end of the month on croplands. And additionally, you can submit written input until the 27th at the email address listed here, naturebasedsolutions@resources.ca.gov. If you have any colleagues that were unable to join and weigh in, they are also welcome to submit written input.
Okay, we have come to the end of our hour. Thanks to those who joined in, and appreciate hearing from those who contributed. And thanks to others for joining to listen. It's always nice to see you in the audience. And yeah, maybe we'll see you at the Croplands workshop. Until then, thanks so much. Bye.